Check 1, 1, 2. Looks like we're streaming, which is good. What a weird little sequence of time. How are you folks doing? Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. Just waiting for the YouTubes to load. Make sure that we're off and running. So good to see all of you this morning. Or if you're watching this in the, you're watching the live stream later, watching the edit. Maybe you're watching feedback loop, the edits that we do. Looks like YouTube is frozen for a second. Let's check that out. Make sure that's gonna run okay. How you doing, YouTube? Looks all right. Looks okay. I think we're fine. So we're gonna let that roll. See if that'll smooth out a bit here in just a second. YouTube oftentimes takes a minute to kind of get rolling. At least the audio is smooth. So we got a lot of stuff to go over in a relatively short amount of time. So I don't want to stay here in the station too long. And it does look like CouchBot has fired. So for this short 20-minute rendition of the feedback loop, I need to pull up. Yep, CouchBot just fired, so we are good to go. All right, so let's come over here and make sure we're seeing everybody. All right, let's do this. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatics. Time for the feedback loop. Good to have you back. We've got again, as usual, everybody's kind of moving in some different directions. Brenna's back. She's got some more CSS for us to look at. She's been submitting, like, I got to give props to Brent. She's been just really churning through the newpragmatic.com/front-end material. If you're looking for the exercises, newpragmatic.com/front-end. There you will find HTML and CSS covered, and a series of exercises you can go through to either level up or just begin to get your feet wet. Everything's in CodePen, so you don't have to worry about installing any sort of text editors or anything. This is strictly for getting practice with CSS and covering specific topics like box models and color and type and all the things that are fundamental building blocks of CSS. Eve's back, and she's packaging up her digital assets for her client, the first teacher project that she's been working on. And as I encourage everybody who's going through a boot camp of any sort, whether you're here with me working through New Pragmatic, which is the anti-boot camp, really when you get right down to it, or you're at one of those other things where you're paying thousands of dollars, get away from the class projects as fast as you can and begin doing work out in the field, pro bono work, freelance work. Just get something under your belt, because your portfolio is just going to be significantly stronger. That's what Eve has been doing. But I do have a tweak for what I do have a tweak for you for what you've been working on. And then Abraham's come through and thrown something into the mix this morning. We're going to take a quick look at that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's go ahead and get this underway. All right, so right away I want to start here with Bren's CSS exercises. So Bren has gone through. She's working on the Top Chef pseudo class exercise, and as you go through, you can see she's got her hover states, and active state is working fine. The only thing that I have for you, Bren, here that you could have done differently is down here you've declared nth child on both. So you've got nth child odd, so odd would be for Padma and Gail, even would be for Tom, and really you need one of these. But the other style that you have here, you have this border bottom. I'm just going to take even because that's Tom. I'm going to take even off, and I'm also going to note out the others as well for a second. And I'm going to put that border bottom right here on the cards. And as you can see, those are now applied to all of them, okay? So there's no need to really have that nth child even or odd. You can choose one but not both. But then you come through and you say, okay, whichever one I need to overwrite, I'm overwriting the style that's already there, and that's where you would come back with nth child odd, and that's going to overwrite the two, and you see that now we have the two darker lines that have overwritten the lighter gray. The other thing that you don't necessarily need is you don't need this background, as it's already declared right here on the card. Okay, so that's one thing. I also noticed that you said you were struggling, and I don't have your exercise up here, but I noticed that you said you were struggling with getting rid of the underline on these headlines. Okay, so to do that, we need to look at how this is written, and right now this is just a styled anchor tag. Okay, and as we know from other exercises that we've covered, think back to that navigation exercise, like the first one that you did. Anchor tags, until you declare that you don't want the underline, it's going to give you the underline. So if we wanted to overwrite that, we would need to come down and find the anchor tag, and it looks like we don't have a style declared for that. Look at that. So if I came down, I'd probably add that right here. I would say, okay, a text decoration none, and that's going to get rid of the underline. Now I also want to be able to see it, so I'm just going to change the color to FFS just so we can see it right now. And that is how you would get rid of that color and that underline. Now there are some things, we can talk about other reasons why you would want that underline or why you might want that color, but here you have a specific target that you're trying to get to, and it is trying to find where that asset is. It should be attached to this, but let's just go over to newpragmatic.com/frontend, and we'll go down to the type exercise and we'll get it there, because you're working through this in sequential order. So the finished image for stories, this is what you're targeting. Okay, so this is what you're targeting right now, which means you've got to pull in some type. You've got to pull in a font to change that. You've got some styling to do here, but this is what you're aiming for. And as we look back at this, if I can figure out, yeah, there it is. As you look back at this, you're going to need to come in here, and you're probably targeting this bitter family. So that's where you're going to come through and say, okay, well, font, family, bitter, serif. Is that going to give it to us, or do we need... I did something there. What did I do? Oh, I broke that. That's why my color went away. Yeah, and there it is. So I had the semicolon missing. But there we have bitter, and then you have a fallback of serif. So if bitter wasn't there, this would go to some sort of serif. And then you need to come through and set your sizes and everything else. But I'll leave that to you. But I did want to point out, because I saw in your notes, hey, I'm having trouble with this underline. That's how you get rid of the underline, okay? Let's come over here and look at... Oh, by the way, don't tell anybody. There's this cool thing called PinPot that I've been playing around with. It is like a Figma alternative. Now, I am still, just between you and me, it looks like Figma. It feels kind of like Figma. It's not Figma. And the price point on Figma, like PenPod is open source, so you're not charging people for teams, which is really cool. I like that. I don't necessarily know if it's quite there. I'm gonna play around with it. But I just want you to know that this is out there. It's it's kind of cool to see that there's an open source design tool that's out there that is browser based, but it's not like Figma's price point is crazy, and I like having the community files there. Like there's like iOS resources and things like that. So like there's a lot there's a lot going for Figma that makes it really hard to jump into something like this. But I am going to be diving in deeper on PenPod. But I just wanted to mention that this is lurking out there, and I wanted you to know what I'm seeing. Okay, that said, let's come over here and look at Eve's work. Eve is working on her, so she's got her digital assets, and then she's got her style guide. And Eve, I love the fact that I can come through here and kind of see your style guide. You've dropped it into Google Drive here. The one problem that I have is that it's broken up into individual pages, and my suspicion is that's what's happened because you're building this in Figma, and like when you export something from Figma, it doesn't export it packaged as a PDF. And it's like, awesome, how do I get this to actually export as a PDF? So to show you that, because I think that's really the only missing step here, is like, I hate that these are like all in separate pages, because I'm really afraid somebody, like, they're gonna hand these files over, and it's really easy to lose a file, like the way it is right now. So what I would say is, if we come over, and yes, I have the messiest desktop ever, but if I've got this thing called bundle that I made, and these are your resources. Now, you can order these however you like. I would really suggest that you have a cover page on this thing, that, like, first teacher, here's my logo, and you can switch the order of these things around. How did I make it, though, is the question. And the answer is, I came in, so I first I downloaded your files, and your files were as you see them here. Like, you click through each of them. But I opened them. I said, trying to see. It's interesting. Paragraphs, buttons, PDF. Is it? Oh, I updated that. Okay, sorry. Now I see what I did. I overwrote the file. But the downloaded file. I'll show you for your purposes how I did that, though. So I'm going to first open this up in preview. Right, so previews like that. I'm then going to, I want to see my sidebar. Come on. Okay, there it is. Sorry. Had to figure out how to get it back. And now I'm just going to drag these other four in. I'm going to drag those in, and here you can begin to reorder, if I want this up top, or, I want this one here. Really being a pain in the butt. Thumbnails. Yeah, so here we're beginning to switch the order. I don't know why it was being such a pain before, but now the order's switching. Anyway, you've got it like that. Now you can say export as PDF, and it's going to export these all together. Give it a real name, though. But that's the thing that I would do. I would take all of those individual files, bundle them up, and ship them back out as a cohesive unit, so that you're not handing all these loose files over and then they lose them. Now, can they lose the bundled PDF? Well, yes, they can. But I feel much more like the whole thing's going to stay together if I've got a bundle that I can just hand over, rather than hoping that they open all the files. So I would make that tweak. And then otherwise, I really feel like you're in a good spot. Obviously, the other thing that you want is the recordings. If you've done your Loom recordings, showing them how to, hey, here's how to make a blog post. Here's how to update your teams page. Make sure that is in that file as well. And I didn't think that I saw it. Yeah, I've got your logos and illustrations, and then your style guide, but I didn't see the other. Maybe that's a file that you haven't shared, or that's a file maybe you shared previously. That's always possible. Over here we've got Abraham, and Abraham, I feel your pain. Your bosses have asked you to add this qualifications area, and it feels very disjointed. One thing I would look at, like if you're looking at the add care team member here, everything is left aligned. And then suddenly you begin to come down, and this is centered, and now I've got these entry points that are not equal. And my question here is, can I just come through and create a 2-column grid out of these, all of these, and then left align this label and maybe give it an underline, maybe draw a line next to it? Like, can I do something to draw attention to that label so that they know that this is a thing? Also, if this is all optional, should any of it show up until I've entered a title or role? Like, this all seems like it's unnecessary if I haven't entered a title or role. I'm guessing I will be entering a title or role, but I don't necessarily. Oh, that's really weird. A piece of lint flew up on my screen, and I thought it was I literally thought it was somebody's Figma cursor just buzzing around in the file while I was in it, but it was like literally a piece of lint had blown up from my computer. It was like sticking in there like it was a little bug or something. Anyway, so I left a line first. Can I put it in a grid second? Do I need to show all these fields, or is this something that should show only after I've begun the process of entering a title or role? These are things that I would ask, but the first two, I think, are things that you can investigate that would immediately clean this up, because I agree with you right now. It's just kind of, it feels like it's all over the place. Feels like there's no control here, and that's because it's all these different shapes. It's suddenly a different alignment right in the middle of your file. Okay. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's edition of the Feedback Loop. That was relatively fast, but Bren's knocking out the CSS exercises. Eve is wrapping up her first teacher project, and Abraham is slogging through the ongoing project. And many of us have projects like that we're working on. We're working on them. We'll go to something else. We'll come back to that project. It may seem like we're making very little progress over the course of weeks and months in corporate environments. But what we have to understand and remember is we're always working on other stuff too. So you may feel like we're not really making any progress, but you weren't really working on that thing steadily all the way through, or maybe you were, and there's just a lot of indecision. I'll leave you with this note. One of the things I've discovered, I've been doing a lot of project management style consulting as of late, and so often it comes down to telling your clients, hey, I know you want to move forward on this thing, but it is not properly spec'd out yet. We don't have everything we need to move forward. And if you feel like you're kind of stuck and unable to move forward, yet people want to move forward, begin to look at the requirements and ask yourself, have we clearly identified what we want to do here? Because it's very likely that everybody's excited about moving forward, but no one has clearly declared what needs to be done. And it takes an adult in the room to go, okay, I understand we want to do something, but we have not put in the work to make the efforts that we put into this fruitful, and we need to sit down and and dictate, here is what we want to do. And once you do that, you'll have a much better chance of success. But until you make that declaration, it's going to be an uphill climb. So sit down, spec out your work, make sure that you've got people on board, and then you'll see these projects moving forward. And beware of people that are, where's my project? Where's my project? Where's my project? Because so often they haven't, they're asking questions, but they haven't actually taken the time to tell you what they really want. All right. Without further ado, that's it for Chris. That's it for me. Into the feedback loop. I will chat with many of you later today, and for the rest of you, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.